All right, welcome to the Awaken Living Podcast, Episode 7. So, this is an important episode. I'm going to be going over why I stopped being vegan, and this is a super long overdue thing. I should have made content about this such like a long time ago, but better late than never. So, most of you know me who have been watching my content for a while as a pretty like devout vegan, and if you've been watching my content for a while, you would see that I've had my like fruitarian stage, my like only juice slash breatharian stage, the raw vegan stage, the cooked vegan stage, the Dr. Sebi stage. Like I've been through so many like stages of like veganism and health, and like really put my body through it, through like intense detoxing, malnourishment too, and just at times it was like a disaster. And I think a lot of people have experienced that too. I've had friends that have like gone raw vegan, and they kind of wreck their body and their metabolism like for a long time, before they really recovered. And I can definitely relate from that. And it's just so hard on your body, and I just don't think it's how we humans are designed to eat. And I really passionately believed that for a long time. And I have like, a lot of compassion for anybody who, believes those things. I don't think everything is right for everyone. Like one thing is not a one size fits all. And, if being vegan works for you, awesome. More power to you, for real. So I started being vegan when I was in high school, actually, before I had dropped out of high school. And I first started with, Dr. Sebi's stuff. And then I got into more like raw vegan stuff and got even more strict. And then I got into people that were, into fruitarianism and all of that. And so I just went all the way with it. And I think I really messed my body up from doing that for, in such an intense way for so long. And I had to learn, how to ground myself much better. I had to learn how to truly like nourish myself, because I really do believe a lot of that really wrecked my body and my metabolism. And I'll get to that. And specifically my teeth too, which is also a quite common thing. I've had a lot of friends who have gone through the very same thing, doing veganism like the right way, whole foods, getting enough calories, everything. And, still they lose all their teeth. And I don't know if it's a genetic factor. I think that does play a role, or, the lack of like mineral regulation or something. I don't know. There's just so many things that go into it. And then you see the vegans that have perfect teeth for so long. And, and sometimes a vegan might have perfect teeth, but might have really bad other health issues from being vegan. And some people who are vegan don't have any issues at all. So it really just depends. And I've also heard that the AB positive blood type is basically like the vegan slash vegetarian blood type. And I don't know the basis of that, fully, but I do believe that some people it does work for, and that's totally cool. I have nothing against that. I'm not trying to convert everybody to the way I do things or the way that I eat. I'm just sharing my experience here. But I do think that for some people, veganism does work, and they keep their health and they're strong and they're good, but the majority, unfortunately, that usually isn't the case. And that's definitely been the case for me. I became vegan because I love animals, and that's the reason that I did it originally. Not even for my health. Health was actually like second. I got into that, second. I'm an only child, and I grew up with a bunch of animals, so I always like had an extra care in my heart for animals. And as soon as I, understood the philosophy behind veganism, I was like super into it. I was like, okay, save the animals, save the earth kind of thing. And it's a great intention, and I just don't think that's quite how it works with veganism, because, regardless of what you eat, something dies. That's how it is. We live in the third dimension, and that's unfortunate. I wish it wasn't that way. I wish we could all just be like breatharian and live on energy and be in harmony, like ideally, obviously that's what I would want. But, the reality is that, there's a cycle of life here in this realm, and we need, certain things to sustain ourselves, like, so be it like physical food. And that's needed, to sustain yourself here, unless you're just some, way ahead of the times breatharian, which I also believe exists. But, just in a more practical sense, the majority of people are not there. And even people that are very advanced, are also not there. So it's not a matter of like how advanced somebody is in their spirituality. I really don't believe that. It's just, how it is. Like just such a tiny amount of like recorded breatharians exist. So, we all need physical food for the most part. And I just don't think that the nutrients in plant-based food will cut it. There's no taurine, there's a lot less glycine and lysine and amino acids in plant foods. You can't get, fat-soluble vitamins fully in plant foods. There's really the most essential nutrients are just simply not in plants. And people argue this and try to say, oh, yeah, you'll get vitamin A, you'll get vitamin K from all this, eat the greens, eat the root vegetables, eat the, rice protein and quinoa protein, hemp protein, like whatever, pea protein, whatever it is. Like I've tried all of that stuff, like literally all of it. And it just, none of it compares to the bioavailability and the just natural, mechanism and metabolism response that comes from eating animal products, especially like high quality pasture raised, grass fed, grass finished animal products. There really is nothing in comparison. And there's infinite, testimonials of people that have been vegan and switched over to like a whole foods, nose to tail diet where they're still implementing like some of the aspects of veganism, like the whole foods diet, but they're eating more of a nose to tail style, and they just transform their health and body. They're better looking, they're younger, their skin looks better. It goes on and on and on and on. They have a higher IQ as well. And historically, slaves would never be fed meat in many different cultures among different wars and things, because it made them easier to control and weaker. And I do think that eating meat is super important, like specifically red meat, because it has all of the amino acids and things that plants, don't have. And the first thing, after 4 years of being vegan, I was really stressed out. I was going through a lot in my life. And I just really wanted something dense, like nothing. It was in the winter. I was super cold. I was in Lake Tahoe, California. It was so cold there. It was like maybe 15 degrees, 20 degrees. And I really just wanted something dense to like ground me. I was eating potatoes and like plant-based butter and all this stuff to try to ground myself, and it just didn't work. And so I decided, like, what, I think I'm going to stop being vegan. It was a really hard decision. Like at the time, this was like life or death to me, because it was like a total destruction of my ego, which, believed I was supposed to be vegan for my whole life. So it really, hurled me into the imperfection of things in life. So it was a really humbling thing. So I bought a grass-fed steak and I cooked it and I ate it. And it was not easy to do, but I'll tell you what though, when I ate that, I felt so much better, like instantly. I felt physically stronger. I felt like more alert. I just felt so much better on all levels. I felt like great. I felt strong and healthy. And a lot of people will go like, oh, if you eat meat, you're going to have a detox reaction and it'll make you sick. Or like all this like vegan dogma, and all of that is just total BS. And getting proper nourishment is not going to give you a detox reaction. It's just, there's endless like misinfo and fear mongering about eating meat. And, I think being vegan in a lot of ways, like the culture of it thrives on fear and gaslighting you, to not eat animal products. In some ways, that are valid, but most of the ways I've found really aren't that valid, because they're based on just like fear mongering and not really the laws of nature. And if a former version of myself heard this podcast, he'd probably be freaking out. So it's been the most humbling transformation to like come out of veganism into, how I eat and live now, like complete transformation of my identity in every single way. And there's really very little of me that's the same, to be honest, because I've had to change like everything, I used to be super extremist. Now I'm more like, I find joy in the imperfections of things, Like ideally, of course, I'm just like, yeah, I want to be full on breatharian, never eat, never sleep, But it's like, is that realistic? I'm sure it is on some level, but I don't think that's my path. You have to do what feels right for you. And I do believe like very recently there was like a golden age of people that walked this earth that were full on breatharian, like a whole society. And I'm going to do a whole podcast on like Tartaria and like the old world and stuff, but yeah, there's really something to that. But yeah, as of like, how this world and dimension is, we do require food, and the majority of us like animal products, to thrive and be grounded here and be healthy. And, something dies, unfortunately, whether you're vegan or not. You're killing rodents, bees, insects through veganism and more, depending on where you're sourcing the food from. And then with an animal, you're killing animals or one animal, but if you do the math, and this is a very confusing thing when I first looked into this, if you do the math, you're actually killing less animals, by eating a nose to tail like pasture raised, diet than actually being vegan. Which really blew me away. I had a lot of cognitive dissonance when I first, read that because it was very like in my face. People like posting it because I saw some other people like, transition from veganism, and I was like years later, that happened. I ended up doing that, but when I saw people doing that, I was like, oh, they're out of their minds. Like, oh, they're just, not eating enough or something. But here I am now on the other side too, and I believe it's the side I'm meant to be on. So how I eat now is basically what's called a nose to tail diet. So basically it represents the tail to the nose of the animal, right? So you're eating all parts of the animal, the organs, the meat, the everything essentially. Typically, this is also called like a whole foods diet, and when you're referring to like plants and things, so you'll eat like all parts of the food, the root, the stem, the leaves, the stalk, all of that, and like eat the entire plant. And this is the same concept with you know, animal products. So nose to tail eating, whole food eating. This is just in general how humans should be eating. And then I did another podcast recently about, my like biohacking guide that I, am promoting like for this year. I kind of like learn new things every year. And so I'll come out with a new biohacking episode like each year, like updated. But I go over some of my favorite supplements, and they're also like whole food supplements, like beef liver, different K vitamins that are from natural sources and stuff, and all things of that nature. So ultimately, you want to keep it all whole foods, nose to tail eating. And statistically, if you look up the longest living people around the world, it's always people that eat nose to tail, which is pretty interesting. And also, a lot of them eat the most red meat as well, like high quality, like lean red meat. And so I've tried a lot of different meats, and you always got to experiment to find what foods work best for you. And that comes with experimentation, obviously, and knowing your body. But I like steaks. I love dry aged ribeyes, top sirloin. Those are probably my favorite, cuts of steak. And then I really like bison, also called buffalo, depending on where you're from. I also love venison. Venison's probably my favorite out of all of them, and then elk is really good as well. So I usually stick to the more gamey meats, and if I'm going to do beef, then I'll do a really nice like steak. I don't really eat too much ground beef unless it's like really high quality, like regenerative beef. Yeah, not all beef is created equally, and I just seem to respond better to bison and other like gamey meats. And then chicken is okay too. Make sure it's like some pasture raised, good quality chicken. Really does make a huge difference in the meat quality. And I'm eating that as well. I've eaten duck sometimes as well, which is pretty good, which is also more gamey of a meat. And as for dairy, I obviously eat dairy now too, which I used to be, so scared of. Now I drink lots of raw milk. I try to find raw cheeses if I can, like Parmigiano Reggiano. And then the other one is called Romano cheese as well. It's like a raw sheep milk cheese. Those are my favorite, the Italian like raw cheeses. They have the most K27. That's a vitamin that's like really important. And the most retinol as well of most cheeses. So I usually go for those. I also really like goat cheese as well, like the more on the like sweet side and creamy of the goat cheeses. I also really love brie, like fancy, like French, like brie. It's a type of cheese that's really, really good as well. I really feel great when I eat lots of that stuff. I actually try to avoid a lot of pasteurized cheeses, even if they're like, pasture raised, all that stuff. I just seem to do better on, raw dairy just in general. I do, pasteurized milk sometimes. That doesn't really bother me so much, but I always do better on raw milk just in general. Like the majority of people always do better on raw dairy and have no issues. I just think I absorb it better. I feel more nourished, less, inflamed, less mucus. I used to believe, oh, dairy causes so much mucus, all this. Well, that's only because, in America you use, or in many parts of the world, hybridized cows, and you're supposed to drink cow from an A2 type of cow, which I also think is called like a Jersey cow. I could be wrong. It might be a different, breed of cow, but that's like essentially the original cow, and it doesn't have any indigestible protein, so it doesn't give people, reactions or gut issues or mucus, if you will. So A2 raw milk, best thing you can drink, and then eating the cheese from those cows as well. That's really great. And then Most people respond very well to goat cheese as well, because that one is easier to digest too. And then I also do pasture-raised butter. It's kind of hard to find raw butter in Arizona where I live. I've actually never seen it anywhere. I have no idea where to get it, so I just been getting the normal like pasture-raised butter that's been pasteurized, and I think it's really good too. But I'm sure raw butter would be better. And I mean, if you're cooking the butter, it gets cooked either way. But I think the raw butter is going to retain more of the nutrients. I've actually only tried raw butter maybe once or twice. Not many times at all. I would love to introduce more of that into my diet and how I eat. I also really like high quality like pasture raised turkey sometimes, and pasture raised eggs. I'm actually about to get some chickens where I live. I've never done that before, so that's going to be fun. And hopefully I don't have to buy eggs anymore, and I'll feed them like Shilajit, good quality water, all that stuff. It's going to be fun. And high quality eggs in the morning are really important. I also try to stay in ketosis as well. It's not always the easiest thing to do because I like eating a huge variety of different foods. They're all like good foods to eat, obviously, but I do like staying in ketosis, which is basically having a really high protein and fat intake with very low carb that's like monitored and cycled. So you stay in a state of ketosis. And I know that there's multiple states of ketosis, and I'm no expert in ketosis, but or like the keto diet, but I know that you want to be in only one of the types of ketosis, and the rest like are not good for you. So a lot of people refer to, oh, keto, that's not good. It'll put you in this negative type of ketosis. But yeah, that's that one. But there's like the proper kind, which promotes health and healing and stem cell regeneration and all of that good stuff, and the healing of the body. And I've had really great results doing that. It's really just healed my body. I don't know how else to say it. And the further I seem to go away from that and eat more carbs and just have a constant like high carb diet, I just don't do as well, like on every level, like my physical function, my brain function. I'm just at my peak performance when I'm just eating like lean fat foods all the time and then cycling carbs and fruit and raw milk and stuff. Like that's just when I feel my best. And it really does just raise your IQ. I've seen the craziest things heal, and I haven't even gone too deep into it. I've only really gotten my feet wet with it, but it really is such a valuable thing. So that's basically how I eat. And then when it comes to like fruits and stuff, I usually just try to eat seasonal fruit or whatever I can get my hands on if it's good quality. I lived in Hawaii for almost 4 years, and one of my favorite things there is the fruit. I could just constantly get the best fruit ever, and in Arizona, I definitely can't. I can get good citrus, but I can't really get anything else. I can get good like stone fruit as well, like peaches and plums and things, but not much else. And the rest comes from like Mexico and California, like avocados, limes, lemons, which is pretty close. I would consider that like pretty local still. But even then, I'm not getting like the best mangoes in the world. I'm not getting like, some of the things that I would really love in Hawaii, like dragon fruit, mangoes, like Rollinia, Chico, or that's also called like Sapodilla. Some of these really awesome fruits. I can't even remember them all. There's so many, but I really enjoy eating all of those. That's one thing that I miss. But I do cycle fruit and I eat fruit like almost every day as much as I can. I don't really like limit fruit, but I do like cycle carbs. And if I feel like I'm eating too many carbs, I'll definitely like hold off and maybe eat some cheese or some meat or something like that to put my body more back into ketosis. One of my favorite fruits to eat though on the mainland is wild blueberries, and you can get those in almost any store, like frozen. That's probably, the most convenient and accessible, like very high quality fruit that's available pretty much anywhere in the U.S. I know most people who listen to this and watch my stuff are in the U.S. And I also make the heavy metal detox smoothie with that, which is spirulina, barley grass, juice powder, wild blueberries, cilantro, dulse, and coconut water. That's a great smoothie. I do love drinking that as well because it really does work, with removing metals. I use that, and then the infrared sauna just to keep, in general, like overall health and detox flowing, keep those detox pathways open. Another thing that I really love that's changed my health for the better is putting Dr. Cowan's powders. I have them, all of their products on my website, and you can use my code SHER for 10% off, I believe. But they're basically biodynamic vegetables grown in living soil, and they're, dried into a high quality powder that you can use as basically, spice powders on your meat or on whatever you're cooking. And that's really amazing to get some extra like phytonutrients and micronutrients from the vegetables, low oxalates and all that, if you're sensitive to oxalates. And yeah, that's really, really good stuff. So I definitely recommend that. And I'm using that, as much as I can. I also love bee products. That's another thing. Raw honey is great. Bee pollen, royal jelly, propolis. All of that is just great. I love drinking like raw honey and lemon water, like warm, maybe with some ginger in it too, especially on an empty stomach in the morning. That's really great. And, I'll take that with like some systemic enzymes or something, and then I'll eat some eggs, and then I'll get to work and I'll probably make some coffee sometime around then, or some tea, depending on how I'm feeling. Sometimes I like coffee, sometimes I don't. And then I'll just kind of get in my workflow, I'll go build some pyramids, I'll do some computer work on the site, whatever needs to be done. Or maybe I'll have to do something around the house. And then, lunchtime, I'll probably have some sort of snack or cook a steak or something like that. And then I'll just get back to work. And that's just kind of how I do it. I just, kind of flow in and out of how I eat. I do usually try to eat 3 meals a day. And if I eat a lot, I might skip breakfast and intermittent fast the next day. But only if I'm like super nourished. Like if I didn't get enough to eat, I usually am not ever going to skip a meal unless I'm intentionally like fasting. Just because I don't want to go against the flow of like my metabolism, because that keeps me aligned throughout the day, helps me get better rest and stuff. It's important to always listen to your body as best as you can. I also think it's really important to get, high quality salt in. So I'm always doing the Crucial 4 salts. They have one from, it's called Icelandic flake salt. That's from Iceland, and it has about 3 times more magnesium than your traditional salt, and it's way more pure. No heavy metals or microplastics. That's really great stuff. I use that on everything I eat, especially on meat. It's really good. I also really love to eat pasta. When the time is right, I love just making some really good pasta. I always make it homemade sauce, everything. I'm part Italian, so I guess that part of me likes it. And I'll always try to do some like raw cheese or things in that. It'll just be really good. And I also use the Icelandic flake salt in there from Crucial 4. And you guys can use Sher, SHER, for a discount code on Crucial 4's products. They have another salt that's really good, that's a little cheaper. It's called polar salt from Antarctica, which is pretty cool. Those of you who think about the ice wall and things like that, it's interesting to eat some salt from over there. You kind of connect to the land, if you know what I'm saying. Also, complete side note, I'm a big tea enthusiast. Like, I love white tea, black tea, green tea, rare Japanese and Chinese teas, Chinese medicine, herbal teas, all those types of things. I'm always drinking tea. Actually, almost like that more than coffee, and I really love coffee as well. Like good, organic, like regenerative, like mold-free coffee brewed with a pristine hydro water. And then I'll put some like half and half or raw milk and foam it, and then combine it with the coffee with some raw honey, and ooh, it's so good. And I'll usually put shilajit in it as well, and that really gets me going in the morning if I need a boost. And when I was vegan, I always felt like up in the clouds in a way, and I want to be so grounded and focused and clear, and I've been intentionally giving up anything that prevents me from being, fully clear and present in my life for quite some time now, and I'm still doing that, until I'm like fully clear forever, I'm going to keep doing that. And I want to be grounded, and because I was vegan, I felt like I was like almost like floating all the time. It was really hard to feel nourished and grounded fully, even though I felt like I was doing everything right, and I was doing everything right. But when I just eat meat, it keeps me grounded in the world, like I can navigate things better, and it just keeps me grounded here. I don't know how else to say it, and I think a lot of people feel the same way, and it really just helps me, function. I don't know how else to say it. So there's a couple questions I want to answer too that I had saved, and one of the, just to wrap things up here, this is going to be a little bit of a shorter episode because there's really nothing else I want to talk about here. I just want to, describe how it's been for me with, transitioning from being vegan these past 5 years, and I stopped in 2020, and, I moved to Kauai, and I just changed my whole way of eating, and I basically became like the best health of my life out there. And then all my teeth, I almost lost all my teeth, which I'll get to as well, here as well. But the first question was, what have I noticed in my health since I've switched? And did I have any like emotional challenges transitioning? Absolutely. I actually had like, it's a little embarrassing, like even like, quite a few like pretty much mental breakdowns just like of my identity, like when I switched. And I know plenty of people can probably relate, but it was really deep and painful for me for a while, for a few years. And I really had to switch up everything I believed about myself and life and God. And yeah, it's been extremely hard, to be honest, but I feel way better off because I went through that whole portal of confusion of figuring things out and get to knowing myself better and deeper. And yeah, navigating that was a lot. And I think my health has gotten a lot better. The only thing is, when I stopped being vegan, shortly after, I got a bunch of cavities and almost lost all my teeth. And I did, all the natural protocols to get, cavities healing, the hydroxyapatite, K.7 therapy, magnesium therapy, tons of calcium. Like, I did a ton of different things to help my teeth heal, and they just didn't. Not everyone does. You might have healing from like different supplements and stuff. I hope you do if you have teeth problems. I don't wish upon anyone all of the pain that I went through with my teeth. But yeah, I basically had cavities on all my teeth. There's some before and after photos on my Instagram, and I nearly lost my life too, because the cavities were near the nerves. It was really bad, and I had to get 5 teeth extractions as well. And then I had to fly to a biodentist in Texas. That was like really rough too, because we had to drive through icy roads to get to the dentist because all the airports had closed because of the Austin airport, it being icy on the runways. So we had to drive there from Arizona, and that was really sketchy. So I had like a, procedure with 5 dental extractions and like an ozone treatment, like cleanup, basically to save my life. And I had to drive through crazy ice. So dangerous. Like, why we're on our way there. And, and yeah, my partner was pregnant, and yeah, it was not a fun experience at all, but it was surely an adventure. So that's been my biggest challenge, was the teeth, and I got all my teeth fixed, and I'm feeling way better. My health is back, and now I'm just like maintaining that, but I nearly lost all my teeth from being vegan and malnourished. So I think part of it was genetic too, but I don't know. I don't fully think that. It's just, it's just a lot of factors that go into it. But I do believe that a lot of it was malnourishment and like mineral dysregulation from being vegan for so long and being in such a high state of stress. And I have friends that have, had to get like front teeth extracted. I've seen people get like 9 extracts, 10 extracts from, losing their teeth from being a hardcore vegan. And I really wish it wasn't that way. I don't have any resentment against, veganism or what it stands for, but yeah, it's just unfortunate. I wish we could all just be breatharian and things, but we got to really tend to the vessel and the body and take care of ourselves. It's more important than ever, to be honest. And in the days that we're living in, I mean, it's like 2025 now. Not that I'm fully into the Gregorian calendar, because I'm not, but just like to represent like the collective, like 2025, like, we're really out here and things are changing and shifting. We're entering like a whole new age of energy, and, people call it the Aquarian age, but there's like many different ways to look at it. Regardless of that, it's a whole new like era, essentially, regardless of how you look at it, and nothing seems to be what it used to be. So it's important to be grounded, to protect your energy, to guard your heart, to be clear and raise your vibration as much as you can every day. That should be your go-to things. And figure out what's best for you, what diet, what works for you, what foods, what supplements, experiment until you get it down. And then you can just have a strong routine that gradually just builds your energy and helps you raise your consciousness and puts you on a good trajectory. And then you'll really be like anchored into yourself. And so I definitely encourage to experiment and see what works for you. Another thing I really love is drinking like carbonated water. Like, that's just a really simple thing, but a lot of studies show that even just as simple as, one thing is drinking carbonated water, like carbonated spring water, increases lifespan in like animals that they've, tested it on and things like that. And I just really feel so much better when I have carbonated drinks often. That's one thing. And also just warm drinks, always keeping my metabolism going, and, exercising, grounding, all these things all together is really what I do to stay healthy and promote health and longevity. And that's my goal always, and intentions, and to be thinking the best thoughts, to be, just feeling at my best as I can. And that's definitely not easy. This is a challenging world and life in many ways. And it's about overcoming those and staying in a high vibration regardless of, your circumstances. And you gain resilience from, eating nose to tail and eating this way. You do gain like mental resilience. Like, for example, like bisons are the only animal that will charge into a storm when they see it rather than run away from the storm or wait for the storm to come to them. They'll go right through it. And I feel like quite literally when you eat bison, it gives you more courage and you just gain more resilience with, this way of life. And I feel much more connected to the cycle of life and honoring the animals that, I eat and consume, and where I get my, dairy from and everything, and I really take that into consideration because it's so important to get the best quality stuff wherever you're at. And overall, I just keep eating very simple. I try to breathe as deep as I can, diaphragmatic breaths throughout the day, through the nose, conscious breathing, eating right, grounding, all the right lighting in the house, and, air filters, pure water, just everything all together, really. And that just promotes the best overall life. And, I don't regret any of the days that I was vegan. I also don't regret, not being vegan anymore. I've really come to peace with that. And I feel really good about who I am, which actually took quite some time, to be honest. I really was so unsure of who I was after that, that lifestyle change. And, we're always discovering ourselves, but, it definitely took a big chapter of my life to really like self-discover and get to know myself like on a deeper level, as I, changed my ways of life. And if I had to go back, like I wouldn't change anything because I really learned so many valuable lessons. And yeah, that should answer like all of the questions. I got like quite a few questions in here, but I, answered pretty much already all of them. But that's why I stopped being vegan, just to basically, fix my health. And that's like pretty much the only hope that I had at the time, because I had done everything else for the most part other than, introduce animal products very frequently into my diet and how I eat. And sure enough, that's what really helped me. And I try to keep a balance of it all. It really is all about balance. If there's anything that I've learned, take everything with a grain of salt, listen to your body, and do as best as you can to just remain in balance on all levels.